Methinks, this group presentation covers topics about the priests, the people, and the church in Noli ni Tangere, mostly revolving around chapters 13 and 16. I will introduce the characters heavily involved in the chapters before we move on to the incident. Juan Crisostomo Ibarra y Magsal, our main character, was born into the Ibarra family and raised by his father, Don Rafael. He became friends with Maria Clara as a child in San Diego. He departed to study in Europe in 1874, and while he was gone, Don Rafael and Capitan Tiago married him to Maria Clara. After hearing about his father's death, he went to his birthplace and attempted to create a respectable school there, only to face various roadblocks from local authorities. Next is Padre Salvi, the successor of Padre Damaso, who was appointed town curate of San Diego, where he had considerable power. During this time, he also fought for control of the town with the Guardia Civil's alferez. And lastly, Padre Damaso, the former San Diego town curate, was a boisterous and egotistical man. He acted superior to others because of the powers bestowed upon him as a friar and was opposed to natives acquiring education overseas. This arrogance was accompanied by roughness, with the man speaking harshly.
So let's start the first incident, chapter 13, Signs of Storm.
The incident is from Ibarra, who was on his way to visit his father's grave at the cemetery while being guided by an old servant. They had arrived and was searching his father's gravestones, since the tomb cannot be found. They questioned the current grave digger, only to hear that a fat curate instructed him to dig the bone of Ibarra's father to be moved in the cemetery of the Chinamen. Hearing the grave digger's response, Ibarra grew enraged and grabbed him by the arm, shaking him. The grave digger admitted that he did not bury the bones in the cemetery of Chinamen, but instead dumped them in the lake since he thought it was better that way and less work for him. The enraged Ibarra left the cemetery after insulting the grave digger for his words because of the discrimination at the time. Ibarra had gone to the outskirts to sightsee their old house, which he couldn't been to in years. He then saw the figure of Padre Salvi, who was approaching from the opposite direction. When they drew near each other, Ibarra checked Padre Salvi, while Padre Salvi avoided his look. After a moment of hesitation, Ibarra dropped a heavy hand on Padre Salvi's shoulder. After walking up to him, he asked what did he do to his father twice. Padre Salvi, who knew the matter on hand and also frightened by Ibarra's temper, he confessed that it was Padre Damaso's idea to trespass his father's grave. After hearing his words, Ibarra removed his hands from Padre Salvi's shoulder and hastily went to his residence.
This incident holds significant importance when considering the priests, the people, and the church, as it vividly portrays the wickedness perpetrated by the priests, with the church turning a blind eye to these acts. It showcases how they wield their power and authority without restraint, owing to Padre Damaso's deep-seated animosity towards Ibarra. Meanwhile, Ibarra finds himself utterly helpless, consumed by a profound sense of anguish as he witnesses a desecration of his father's remains. This distressing scene encapsulates the priest's corruption, the church's willful negligence in addressing such misconduct, and Ibarra's agonizing vulnerability in the face of injustice.
So let's move on to the second incident, chapter 61, The Chase on the Lake.
We already know who Ibarra is, so we will talk about Elias in this chapter. He, a wanted man in San Diego, after enduring tragedy after tragedy, he began fighting to change society. After Crisostomo Ibarra saved his life, he kept assisting the young man, saving him on multiple occasions. He was a selfless man bound by an honor code. Growing up privileged, He was initially an arrogant man, as evidenced by his disagreement with a relative and knocking up his disguised father. After losing everything and discovering his family's true past, Elias dedicated himself to assisting those who are equally oppressed by society. To that goal, he joined Capitan Pablo's outlaws and lived as a fugitive. Elias was disillusioned with the current quo as a result of his experiences, and believed that only a violent revolution could bring about the change he desired for himself and others. Ibarra challenged this concept, and the two attempted to reconcile their points of view.
The incident is while on the run with Abanca, Elias outlined his plan to Ibarra while fighting over how much of his remaining life should be spent abroad. Ibarra wanted to invite him while Elias wanted to stay in his native country until his death. Ibarra inquired as to why he would not accompany him only to be told that they are different. In terms of standing perspective and privilege with Elias, being raised to the horrors of life as opposed to Ibarra, who was reared with love and materials. Elias tried to disillusion Ibarra, and Ibarra was well aware of the cruelty of their homeland and the Spaniards. Passing through the Captain General's palace, as predicted by Elias, they escaped the dangerous situation and were on their way to the Beatad River, where Elias spoke with Ibarra about his war plans, saying that innocent people would be dragged in and that Elias would not resort to war until he saw hope in his fellow countrymen. Ibarra, Ibarra adamantly responded to Elias that he will spark the commencement of war as not met his expectations. Elias answered that innocent people, Elias answered that innocent people will suffer simply to hear Ibarra speak the better. They proceeded out of Pasig and had brief discussions here and there, Ibarra murmuring Santa Ana and Elias reminiscing about his good old days as he told Ibarra. They, they then kept silent till they arrived at Malapad na Batu, where the carabiner he saw in their bangka and the civil guard also let them go peacefully. The day was breaking and a police boat was slowly coming, and Elias discovered it was them they were chasing. However, when he attempted to flee back to Pasig, another boat came. While being warned by the people from the police boat, Elias steered the bangka to Talim Island and asked Ibarra if he knew how to manage a bangka, to which he replied yes. Elias then proceeded to explain his plans to Ibarra, that he will lure them away and hide in the bangka to secure Ibarra's life. On Christmas Eve, we'll meet at your grandfather's tomb. When Ibarra inquired about Elias, he replied firmly that God had brought him through many bigger dangers. He then proceeded to leap into the river and push the bank away with his feet, and the chase between them began. The pursuers grew exhausted as time passed, but Elias remained in the same place. And final time they saw him, they fired, but nothing appeared. Minutes later, half an hour later, they spotted traces of blood in the sea close shore, but they weren't sure.
We regard this as an important incident in the range of the topic of the priest, the people, and the church. because Elias's refusal as one of the people to leave the country with Ibarra shows how he is determined that it is better to die than to abandon your country, leaving it behind. Ibarra realizes now that he experienced persecution and cruelty of the Spaniards firsthand that he would believe in revolution than a reform. And we can see from their conversations how Ibarra has suddenly taken on the intensity of a bandit rebel like Captain Pablo, whilst Elias is less idealistic, counseling his comrade to keep his enthusiasm in check. But as Elias has already remarked, Ibarra is overzealous and overjoyed that restrictive institutions generate criminals and subversives.